An eerie world of imagination comes to life before our eyes as we go behind the scenes to discover the magic and mysteries of the stop-motion animation classic, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. To create the film's mind-boggling imagery and outrageous characters, a team of over 100 artists and technicians spent 3 years of painstaking frame-by-frame animation as they pushed the limits of this cinematic art form.
Well, I grew up liking those stories like, you know, every Christmas you'd watch things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or like The Grinch That Stole Christmas. Those were my favorite like holiday specials when I was growing up. So when I was working at Disney, I designed something that's sort of like the reverse of that. It's like the Grinch in reverse, so to speak, about this character who finds Christmas and loves it and decides to try to do it himself.
Tim very much developed the story, the concept is his, the main characters, the tone, the look.
When Tim Burton went back to Disney a couple of years ago and said, "You have a project of mine that I'm still interested in doing." And they dug out not only his treatment, they dug out a lot of his artwork. If you look on the walls, you'll find as much of Tim's original artwork as you will the stuff that we've now done in terms of designing sets. So it's his artwork from that long ago is really the kickoff point for the design of the movie.
Tim Burton and director Henry Selick assembled 13 of the most brilliant animators, along with over 100 specially trained camera operators, puppet makers, set builders, and prop makers. Over a 3-year period, they filled 19 sound stages with Nightmare's 230 sets and hundreds of individual puppet characters.
So we had to create a company to do this. We moved into this building, I think, in July of '91, and we had to be in production by October 1st.
In the first place, I was chosen for the job because I'm from the same planet, if not the same neighborhood as Tim.
He's somebody that's just got a lot of talent and passion, and he knows a lot of people. There's a very small group of people that do this kind of work and do it well. I really feel very lucky that we've got a group of people that are very good at this.
Tim Burton's visually stunning images are accompanied by the music of composer and lyricist Danny Elfman.
Basically, we didn't really have a script, and there was the storyline that Tim had from years earlier.
We didn't start out going, it should be this or that. It sort of grew from the images and the story and took on a life of its own.
We were running out of time, and I just said, well, I'll just start writing some of the songs based on what we talked about. And I started, and he'd come over and he'd listen to it. And then I'd say, let's just talk about the next section of the movie. And we'd talk about it and tell me, oh, and he does this and that. And I said, great, great. And as soon as he left, I'd immediately go and start writing that next song that got us through the next period. And 3 days later, I'd call him back, and he'd come and he'd listen. Oh, great. And now describe the next couple of scenes. He had pictures of all these characters, and if he didn't, he'd pull out a scrap of paper and draw it for me. So I had some really good visual stimulus to get going. I would say the difference between 3 years worth of work on something like this and 6 or 8 weeks on a score, you can't really compare.
We've worked together at least my whole career, you know, in movies and all, and it's just been the greatest collaboration I've been involved with. He's a great songwriter as well as a composer.
So there already was Tim and Danny and songs, and because those were very much finalized at an early stage, those were the first things that we went into production on.
My team and I work with Henry, the director, doing these storyboards here that visualize and plan what the film's going to be. We do the first visual attack on the film.
We storyboard it very specifically. We cut those storyboards, which are drawings of every scene, sometimes many drawings for a specific scene, in continuity, with music, with voice, with sound. So we've pre-made the movie, at least sequence by sequence, before we ever actually go in and animate it.
We're shooting it 24 frames a second, which means that we have to pose the character 24 times for each second of actual completed film.
Working with storyboards, changes and refinements to the story and action can be made before the complicated and time-consuming process of animation is begun.
Storyboard provides the basis for everything. The timing, the action, the gesturing, the whole attitude to each scene and each sequence. I'm the art director, and what that involves is creating the environments based on the storyboard, based on Henry's requests, based on what Tim's drawings look like, etc., trying to stay consistent with that look.
The art direction is very much along the lines of what Tim Burton has done in other films, especially his first short film, Vincent, German expressionist combined with Dr. Seuss.
Halloween is very dark. Everything is lots of silhouettes and almost like a black and white movie, really trying to get that style. You go to Christmas Land, everything's bright, vivid color, lots of fast camera moves, trying to get real fun.
The real world is very sort of simple. Everything's isometric angles, very regular. All the houses are variations on the same theme. The colors are more pastel.
Start doing a lot of sketches, try and get a lot of choices together for Henry. And then Henry comes in and makes his buy, literally. We just pin up 5 or 6 of everything. He has a feeling about what he personally thinks works the best. We combine them, get it down to a couple of alternatives, and then all focus on that.
It should be like opening a book, like a pop-up book, or finding an illustration in a storybook that feels like you could fall right into it.
Even given that, we're trying to then twist that by putting in weird perspectives, different objects playing against each other in different ways.
The art directors wanted to give the sets and characters a look that was reminiscent of the pen and ink illustrations of artists like Ronald Searle or Edward Gorey, with their elaborate textures and cross-hatching.
We took sets and actually spread clay on them or plaster, and then scribed lines all over them to give it that sort of etched textural feel, so to make it look almost like a living illustration.
Textures, also color. Tim was very specific about it. He said your palette for this town is black, white and orange, and we generate the necessary tools for the set people to maintain that look. From there we do either a scale drawing, like a quarter scale drawing of the thing. But that then goes straight to set design. Greg Olson will make a scale model based on our drawing, start to work out the camera angles, how much set is needed.
Once the conceptual art is done, we have to somehow realize it in 3 dimensions: height, width, depth. This is known as a quarter scale mock-up. It is a model of the actual set that we're going to build. Obviously, we can't build it full scale at this point. We need something to start with. If this was an actual set, it would be 4 times as large, which means this would be about 24 feet long. For space considerations, we start with something small and simple. We also have to, at this point, decide how we want it to break apart, because it can't fit on one of our stages. So we build into it some specific breaks so that a piece like this could come out. We've been instructed by the animators that they would prefer not to have to reach more than 2.5 feet to get to a puppet. So a number of these pieces are under 2 feet, specifically so that an animator can reach. And where there isn't a 2-foot reach, we sometimes build in trap doors so that they can physically open up a section of the stage, come up, do the animation, close the trapdoor, and disappear. Then the director can take a director's viewfinder and practice what he wants to see on film. And if the director likes it, then we can actually build this and send it through the paint shop, the model shop. We'll do all the detailing, and then it'll end up out on one of our stages.
Although the sets were built in miniature, they were lit as if they were full-size movie sets, but using smaller lighting instruments. Many of the scenes required as many as 20 to 30 different lights to create the dramatic effects.
What we're trying to avoid is looking like we're doing tricks. Coupled with that, trying to keep some style to it. The biggest challenge on the show, I'd say it's keeping it consistent. There's 8 camera crews.
One of the things that we are pushing the barrier with is a lot of motion control camera moves. So that means big, sweeping camera moves going through the scene as the characters act out. Particularly during songs, it's a lot of fun as an animator to be able to work on stuff like that because it makes your shots look more like a live action film, more fun.
I'll talk to the director and he'll tell me what the action is and he'll give me an idea where he wants the camera. And then what I'll do is I'll take my motion control camera, which has all these different axes. It has track that'll take it in and out. It has swing, which will swing it around on this axis. It has a boom arm that takes it up and down. And then right here on the head, it also has a pan and a tilt and its own roll, and sometimes even a focus if I need to do that. So all those axes are programmed for the shot. Now here it is. We've given it 2 positions. Now the computer's going to compose the move for me. I've given it its start position, I've given it its end position. It'll use those 3 axes, the track, the boom, and the pan, and they're all going to play back in a way that will be hopefully pleasing to the director. Here it goes. As you see now, I'm getting my frame count here. Here's the whole move from frame 1 to 100. Basically, it's a lot of communication between me and the animator, and we tweak with it. We have about 3 days to do this, to get the shot ready to go before the animator has to take over the shot.
Surprised, aren't you? I knew you would be.
The sculpture department, there's about 3 or 4 folks doing all the characters.
We get drawings of the characters that the art department puts together, and then we sculpt them in oil-based clay. The oil-based clay is just the easiest because it's just very versatile and it can be smoothed out with alcohol, and it has to be a soft medium, something pliable that when it's molded, we can use a hard mold plaster and it won't rip up the mold, and we can put the soft foam rubber into the same mold and it'll pull out.
Each puppet has an armature inside it, which is basically a ball and socket, which enables you to move a puppet like these.
We usually get a sculpture or a drawing of front view and side view, and then we'll determine where the joints are supposed to be. Usually the joints are one of 2 different types. There's ball joints and then there's hinges. Ball joints are like in his neck here. He can move it, almost like a universal joint, any amount of range. And those are good for general purpose joints. And hinges are really good for like down here in hips and in his main body because they can be tightened off really strong.
All the intricate parts and pieces of the armatures were hand machined to fit perfectly for each puppet, ensuring that each tiny movement would look smooth and fluid when posed 24 different times for each second of film.
After a puppet a character is sculpted, then it goes to the molding department and it goes through the entire molding process. After they make a mold, they then lay a steel armature in the mold. The mold gets injected with a foam latex material that covers the armature. It's then baked out in an oven, taken out of the mold, and brought up to fabrication. From that point on, that puppet belongs to myself and my crew, the puppet fabrication department. We put the different paint jobs or clothing, hair, fur, everything else that gives the puppet its full character, and then it goes out for animation.
This movie will have approximately 60 individual characters. We will make as many as 3 to 4 duplicates of many of those characters. So the total number of puppets of this film is closer to 200.
We have as many as 20 stages going at once, as many as 15 animators working at once. One animator's working with Jack climbing a tower, and another's working with Jack walking through the woods, and a third's working with Jack singing out in the streets.
The Nightmare Before Christmas brings to the screen dazzling stop-motion imagery, unprecedented in its scope and technical achievement.
I think just the characters and the feel and the look of them, it pretty much, I think, had to be animation.
Here, let me show you.
Stop-motion animation is a process whereby we take a puppet like this and we move them a little bit. Take your hand away, take a picture. We move them a little bit more. Take the hand away, take a picture. We repeat that. Picture, picture. We develop the film and we play it back, and without my hand being involved at all, his arm's gonna swing around like this. It's a way to bring inanimate objects, objects that aren't alive, to life.
To complete just 1 minute of finished film takes an entire week of shooting.
It requires, in my opinion, quite an artist and a technician, and that's a hard combination to find.
A very important part of doing really good stop motion is the same as any other animation, and that's being able to act things out for yourself and really feel it, and then translating that into what the character does.
By getting my own imagination going and seeing how it's going to play in my mind, I act it out, and I play with the puppet a little to see if my actions can be duplicated by the puppet. And if they can, then I talk to Henry, the director, and see if he likes it.
They'll memorize it with their body, act it out several different ways. I'll act it out for them. We go back and forth and arrive on something. Down, takes it up, looks, there's something in there, huh? Reaches inside, gets bit, and then fixes it on, and leans in just as they finish.
Christmas time. Now.
I think a lot of animators, stop-motion animators and 2D animators also, are just frustrated actors and possibly shy actors like myself who, wouldn't want to get in front of the camera. And so it's kind of the nice sense to be able to let people see you, but not really see you. I get to hide behind puppets.
We know the basic blocking. We know the length of the scene within a few frames. So there's a very tight, confined space the animator has to plug in. At that point, the animator becomes the character.
Eureka!
Jack, he's designed as a long-limbed, elegant, spider-like man, and naturally sort of wants to move that way.
We'll go insofar as actually analyzing that stuff frame by frame with a video recorder just to see how things move.
We get the move nailed and lighting, and we shoot tests, and we put them on loops and see them over and over and comment on virtually everything.
We do a series of tests called pop-throughs and run-throughs, and I talk with the director. He'll tell me what he likes, the changes he wants, and then we'll go for the final take.
We'll just be testing 3 or 4 times to make sure we like the action. And when the animator and the director feel comfortable with the acting that's going on, the overlapping of action between characters, then it's like, okay, now go for the hero shot. But in 6 days, something might happen, like a light might get jarred or the camera might slip. And when you're playing it back at speed, you're going to notice that. And that sometimes is a shot killer.
It's not like a cell animated film where if you have a little problem with a frame, you can go back and erase that line, redraw it, and then rephotograph it. If you have a problem with a frame, you have to rephotograph the entire thing. So you've always got that sort of pressure on top of your head that, while you're in the middle of a 400 frame shot that's taken 10 days to shoot, it's the 9th day and something goes wrong.
Ah, there goes Christmas.
To animate Jack's facial expressions and mouth movements, the animators used hundreds of hand-sculpted replacement heads.
So every time he makes a different mouth position, A, E, I, O, U, and then everything in between, and then in a mad way or a sad way or a happy way or a neutral way, we have to have a whole different sculpt of the head. We might use as many as 400 distinctly different Jack heads.
Voices are read on exposure sheets so we know precisely when to change a mouth position.
We've fed a photograph of each head into this computer. Then we pick a head to match each syllable of the character's dialogue or song. This establishes which head or mouth position the animator will use.
Oh, somewhere deep inside of these bones, an emptiness began to grow.
For instance, I need to use head number 43, so I'm to look here. There's 43, and that's the head that I'm using right now. I've been asked, how do you make a character blink? For Jack, we have these replacement series. So what I do is just take these, place them into Jack's eye. And so I do that for both eyes. And then after I take that frame of film, I take this out, close it a little bit more, take the frame of film, and then put the closed eye in. I might do this for 3 frames. So you're getting very quick action of just a blink, which brings the character to life even that much more. And that's just one more element of his realism. Just an extra touch.
Sally, she's actually probably got the best armature for subtle acting. She is supposed to be a little off balance, out of kilter, so we push her, we actually turn the camera at times, we put her neck out of joint, try to make her feel like she's faltering at times.
The puppet of Sally is able to speak and show emotions in a similar way to Jack. Animators can choose an entire new face for every expression change.
Because she has lovely long red hair, and we can't easily change her whole head, like Jack's, we have given her a mask. So from her hairline back, there's literally a mask for every expression change.
To try and get the kind of character and acting and just technical smoothness that hasn't been seen in the medium before is the biggest difference in this film.
The final layering of atmospheric effects includes snow, smoke, shadows, fire, and electric lightning bolts.
Here Gordon Baker studies a frame of packages being delivered by cartoon ghosts. First, the packages, which we fly on strings, are traced a frame at a time in a process called rotoscoping. Then the ghosts are hand-drawn to fit a frame at a time around those packages. The two are composited together, and that's the result you see.
Certainly no movie has been done to this extent, to this level in stop-motion animation with these kind of production values.
There's not a lot of glamour, and it's very hard work. You have to repeat what you're doing constantly.
It's like making a live-action movie in slow motion, really.
You can't embark on a project like this and just dream about when it's all over. You really have to enjoy the meticulousness of the work. Also, on a daily basis, we always have a few completed shots, and that's what we live for, and that's why most of us got into animation, when all of our efforts come together and bring a character to life.
If it all works together and runs smoothly, that's the payoff. That's the reward.
I'd like to think that our efforts, using real light, real materials, real sets, and real talent will, give the audience something special, maybe a certain level of charm. That's what I get every day in screenings when we look at finished shots.
And to see it sort of happening is great. I mean, it's, for me, sort of watching the shots and things unfold, it's after 10 years, designing it 10 years ago, it's really like a dream and very surreal and beautiful. So it's great. I mean, I'm very happy.
I believe it was our most horrible yet. Thank you, everyone.